Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior executive director of education at the Bhakti Center, Kaustubha Das. I wish I had a button for laughter and clapping right there. Anyway, we are live here with about 77 people on Zoom and a bunch of others. We call the others that don't watch us live, but those that listen during the course of the day. Sometimes we don't even know who they are. We run into them on the street or we run into them in our travels, and they say, "I've been listening for 4 months." We call them the others. We call them the others. And we are studying, if you're new to the show, welcome. We study a sacred book of India, try to make heads or tails out of this book, but it's actually been explained to me and Kaustubha and studied by us for about 30 plus years. It's called the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a book about resurrecting our natural identity. How's that for a nice way to put it? Resurrecting our natural identity. I have so many identities in the material world. I play the role as a father. I play the role as a brother. I play the role as a son. I play the role as a teacher. We take on different identities. We assume different roles. But it's almost like we're players on a stage acting out different personas, bravados, personalities. But the real thing is we are unique spiritual individuals. And that is the real title that we give ourselves. And when we call ourselves that, from there we perceive the world with a different vantage point. Our real identity is not of boy, of girl, of particular nation, or even race or religion. It's in fact that I'm a spiritual entity and I'm in this body for a very short time. It's actually such a profound thing. And the more I say it, the more it sounds more profound. But we don't have a soul. We are a soul. We have a body. And the body is the apartment that we're renting. It's not even an apartment. It's an Airbnb. We're not even here that long. We're here for a few days only. And then we give it up, we trade, and we get a new Airbnb somewhere. And sometimes we got a very big Airbnb, small Airbnb, charming Airbnb, right? We just get some karma. I'm born with this karma. I want to be taller, I'm short. It's just this karma. I want to have hair and bald. You just get some karma and you're left to deal with your karma and how to engage this karmic machine in this material world, so that the karmic machine that we're driving around with doesn't keep us in bondage. There's ways to take all these things that we were born with and use them in a way that keeps us in illusion. And there's ways to take all these things that we were born with, the gifts that we have, and use them that they actually liberate us. And Bhakti-yoga is the process of first understanding what we have, what we're carrying around with us, and how to use that in this world to escape the illusions, the shortcoming, or the pitfalls, the dead ends, the maze of the material world, and develop more and more freedom and internal joy. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
Love it.
Everything good with you?
Everything's good. Yeah, we're kind of at this pivotal point in the Bhagavatam now. Should we do a little quick review?
Please.
Okay. In the beginning, and we spoke a little about Suta yesterday. Suta, Bhagavatam begins out in the forest. A group of sages have gathered. They're trying to find out what is the essence of all the yogic literature and how can we find complete satisfaction of the soul. They turn to Suta Goswami, one sage amongst them, and they pose their questions. And then the second chapter begins with Suta Goswami begins to speak. But he begins by offering his respect to his teacher, to his guru. And that guru is named Sukadeva Goswami. And Sukadeva Goswami becomes this he becomes the speaker of the Bhagavatam. It won't be until the second canto that he begins to speak. First canto is building up to that. But he's this beautiful character, young, 16-year-old, naked, transcendentalist, wanderer, son of Vyasadeva, who is
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Son of Vyasadeva, who is the compiler of all the Vedas. And he's going to speak it to the king who you've spoken about in earlier episodes, the king named Pariksit, who was going to die in 7 days and is trying to find out, how do I best spend this time? And just at that time, Sukadeva arrives in an assembly of sages and speaks the Bhagavatam to him. So Suta was there. Suta witnessed the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and King Pariksit. And so we're hearing the Bhagavatam not just through the mouth of Sukadeva, but through the mouth of Suta, who heard it, who witnessed that conversation. Now in this chapter, it's called the son of Drona punished. Right? And you spoke a little bit about Drona yesterday. Drona was the guru of Arjuna in the Mahabharata. Arjuna, who's famous from the Bhagavad-gita. And the kind of like post-Bhagavad-gita stuff starts to play out here now in Bhagavatam, where we're going to hear about Arjuna, we're going to hear about Drona and Drona's son and the conflict that he had with Arjuna's family. But the reason that we're going to hear about that is because it was Arjuna's grandson, who is King Pariksit, who the Bhagavatam is spoken to by Sukadeva Goswami. And so this chapter is going to begin to introduce the speaker and the hearer of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It starts by, today we're going to hear about Sukadeva Goswami, and then the rest of the chapters we're going to hear about how Maharaj Pariksit was in the womb of his mother, the daughter-in-law of Arjuna, and how Lord Vishnu appeared to protect him. So we're going to hear, it's just a way of introducing the two key figures in Bhagavatam that we're going to hear about for thousands and thousands of more verses going forward.
Okay. All right. So let's start off. We start off with these beautiful invocations. Opening Mara's iPhone. It has no lock on it. It says something about a person's personality when they don't lock their phone. Like, I got nothing to hide. She says I'm boring. I was thinking more like you're a complete transcendentalist. You're completely vulnerable. You're here for the world. You're ready to share anything they want to know. No secrets to hide.
Well, the private school secret is already out.
The private school. We know all your secrets from private school. There's a few more we should dig up. Okay, I don't see Papa. Is Papa Tony there today? Okay, here's our invocation. Narayanam namaskritya naram shaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Timurandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Whew. Well, we are in Canto 1. There's 12 cantos. Before I started studying Bhakti, I didn't even know what a canto was. I'm learning a lot of the new words. There's 12 cantos. We're in Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 6. And the name of the chapter again is The Son of Drona Punished. The material miseries. Good morning. The material miseries of the living entity. Living entity, you hear this word a lot. It just means of the soul. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated. That's such a good verse. By the linking process of devotional service. That's what yoga is. It's the linking process. The material, I'm going to read that again. Material miseries of the living entity. The material miseries of the soul. They're superfluous to him. They have actually nothing to do with him. And they can be directly mitigated by this linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this. And therefore, the learned Vyasa have compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. It's amazing how many people, just like we're reading today, how many people have studied this book for millennia. This has been one of these books. I was just talking to Janeshwar, my assistant in India, who's from, I think he's from Bihar, but his family's from Bihar. And he was telling me, like, every evening in his village, everybody just gets off work, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and they sit around and they read the Srimad Bhagavatam, they read the Ramayana, they read the Mahabharata, and that's what you do in the evening. You get together, you read. You know, I just think about, like, what are the images you go to bed with at night?
Bird Box.
What's that? Bird Box? Oh, well, me and Bridget watched another movie last night. We went on another date night last night. What was that movie we saw? We didn't even know it was playing, but it was just like, yeah, we have one cheap movie theater. I'm a cheap date. We have one cheap movie theater in town we go to, we like. And it's a charming little old theater, and but they have regular movies, and we just want to go away to just really to be with each other. What was the movie? It was just like, it was Adam Sandler's new movie.
Oh, something gems.
Yeah, Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems. It was just about. It was all about living in passion and ignorance, like from the beginning to the end. How did we get talking about this?
What images you go to bed?
You know, what images you go to bed with. So that was I had to re-image myself before I went to bed. I sat in my altar room and just like, okay, got to undo that. I got to undo that bullet through the head. Spoiler alert. Got to undo the drugs, snorting cocaine. I got to undo the beatdown scene. I got to undo getting hung out the window by his ankles. It was just like it was like, what was it? Command Z on all my thoughts.
How did you undo it?
I sat in front of my altar and did like a little Manasa Puja, a mental worship.
A mental ritual.
And then, of course, I go to my favorite Instagram account, which is called Krishna Real Friend. Does anybody follow that except me? It's just got thousands of pictures of Krishna. I can just look at that thing all day. I was like, oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice one. That guy, who knows? That guy might get like 10,000 bumps today too. I'm gonna say the name of that Krishna Real Friend one. Anyway, sorry. He's got 50,000 followers anyway. Yeah, Krishna.realfriend.
That's Instagram.
That's Instagram. Great pictures of Krishna. It's good. The images in our mind create us. And with all these things, because of all this interest in podcasts, it's like so many podcasts are all about murders. Have you noticed that? There's like,
I think the #1 podcast is about murders.
I think it is. I think like this week I looked at that. It's like
Joe Rogan's #2, murder is #1.
People love murder. And I tell you, the more you absorb your consciousness in things like just dark things, like infidelity, scandals, murders, those are the thoughts that we create and carry with us in the course of a day. And then some people are like, well, I just want to be real. I want to know the real news. All right, have fun. Because things are dying all the time. You can absorb yourself in that. You get what you look for. If you're looking for murder, you can find it. You just have to sit in my backyard. You'll find some, the duck ate a frog, the sheep are, eating something. There's, a bird's eating a spider. It's just like the whole world is murderous. Let's think about something uplifting. What do you think about the coronavirus?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I think it's a material misery which is superfluous to us. that can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service.
That's why I love you. You always put it in perspective.
You know,
Yeah.
you opened up by saying that our identity, that by hearing Bhagavatam, by practicing bhakti, we can revive our original identity. Right?
Yeah.
And then the text that we read yesterday, which is text 5, it says, due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, although transcendental to the material energy, thinks of himself as a material product. And you listed a bunch of things. I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a teacher.
I'm a smoker, I'm a joker, I'm a midnight toker. That's what you made me think of that. I'm sorry.
Those are each one of those, smoker, joker, and midnight toker, are each superfluous identities that have nothing to do with the true soul. They're just temporary. Only temporarily are you a midnight toker. And once it's past midnight, you're no longer a midnight toker. But our identity is beyond time. So all of those things are not us. But we think ourselves a material product. We think I'm this body, I'm this mind. And that's where we ended yesterday. And thus, we undergo the reactions of material miseries. So now, these verses are describing what Vyasadeva saw in his meditation. He went into that cave that Parmananda filled us in on yesterday.
Yes, that was very nice.
He did his meditation as instructed by Narada, his guru. And he became empowered, and he had this vision where he saw Krishna, and he saw Krishna's material energy, and he could understand how all living entities are bound by this material energy. And he also understood very clearly, he had the most crystal clear understanding that it's by connecting to that divine source, the linking process, yoga. Here it uses the word Bhakti-yogena, I believe, right? In the translation. What is it? Yes, anartha.
Yogam and hoksajay.
Yeah, the anarthas, the superfluous things, the unwanted things that the mind is absorbed in. Anartha pashamam sakshat. They're directly mitigated by bhakti yoga, by bhakti yoga and hoksajay, by the linking process, the yoga of bhakti. But lokasya janato vidvams. But most people don't know that. Most people aren't aware of that. Even, there's a further implication in this verse. Therefore, he compiled this Vedic literature, this Samhitam, this particular Vedic literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam, because even if you study the Vedas and the Upanishads, you might not get that Bhakti Yoga in particular is absolutely effective.
It's a very, very big reservoir of information, the Vedic teachings.
Yeah.
It's not just bhakti. Most of the Vedas deal with elevation to higher planets. I mean, if you even try to explain that to somebody on Joe Rogan or anyone you meet in the street, it's sort of like, basically the whole Vedic thing's about elevation to higher planets. Everyone's like, hello? Yeah, but there is this, that's what the concept of yoga is. In this lifetime, I'm going to perform this activity. And in my next life, I will enjoy. I will be on this planet. I will be on the planet of forefathers.
Or let's say that's pre-yogic activity, right? Like that's still materialistic activity.
It's sort of metaphysical materialism.
Yeah.
Where you're asking, I call it metaphysical Amazon Prime. Please give me this. Please give me that. Please bundle it with this. Please give me this mystic power while I'm at it. And so the Bhagavad-gita starts off, Krishna's opening gambit is all these things in the Vedas, these flowery verses of the Vedas, they're all temporary. All those temporary things are coming from me anyway. All the fruits of the work you're doing for this tapasya, this so-called spiritual endeavor, all the fruits of them are limited and temporary. Now, most of us get that in the material world. It's probably why we're at the Bhagavad. We didn't have to go to a higher planet to realize, like, in this affluent country, when we can have whatever we want, we can go to any beach we want to. We can go on any vacation. We've all been to a tropical island, probably. We've all done so much. After a while, it's a big, so what? So what? Who cares? Big deal. That's the material world. The material world, I hate to sum it up, is a really big deal. And it's hard to be enamored by that. It's funny because they call it a bucket list. It's sort of like, okay, I did that, did that, did that, did that. And after a while, that bucket list is just a one big bucket of big deals. I want something substantial. I want a life practice. I don't just want to go here and there. I want a life practice I can do every day and check in with every day and feel like I'm growing every day. And I don't want to have to go wide. I want to go deep.
Shall we go deep into this commentary?
We're going to go deep in the commentary. You want to?
Yeah.
Okay. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead. This statement suggests that the complete unit of the personality of Godhead includes the parts and parcels also. He saw, therefore, his different energies, namely the internal energy, the marginal energy, and the external energy.
Important concepts to grasp.
Internal, external, and marginal.
Yeah. So
we are marginal. We can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the internal energy means the spiritual energy, the energy that is not affected by time, the energy wherein karma does not play a role. In one sense, the real energy, the energy that doesn't shift, the energy that is solid and blissful by nature and conscious by nature, the spiritual energy. And then there's another energy called the external energy. That means the material energy. That means the virtual reality of this world that we're walking through. That energy which is always shifting, which our bodies are made out of, which our homes are made out of, our clothes are made out of, all the material stuff. Even the subtle mind is made out of that material energy. And then the marginal energy refers to us, the soul, right? That we are made of the spiritual energy, but that it's called marginal because the particular category that we're made out of, the particular, we say tattva, of energy that we are composed of, has the potential to become covered, or bewildered, or illusioned by the material energy. So we're in the middle, like a beach. Sometimes it's said like a beach. Sometimes the water is covering it. Sometimes the water recedes. We're like that. The material energy may cover us, or we may become uncovered. We're marginal. We're in a sense.
I'm stealing that analogy.
Beach? I think that's from Prabhupada.
I never heard it. Shows that I don't read any books.
Come on. So if we get that, then we understand that's called Sambandha Jnana, knowledge of the relationship of these three different energies. All energies, in one sense, it's all God's energy, so it's all God. So it's said here that this statement suggests that the complete unit of the personality of Godhead includes his part and parcels also. That means us. So he saw God, he saw the living beings, he saw the external material energy of God. Those three topics, if you understand them, it said you have true knowledge, jnana, and how they all relate. And so he had some kind of vision of it all and a perfectly clear understanding of how they all relate.
Yeah, real knowledge is to know all three of these.
That's Bhagavad-gita 15th chapter starts there.
And last verse of the 7th chapter.
Or is it? Okay. I was thinking 15th chapter.
I know, because I made it into a shelter lyric at once. But I'm sure it's all over the Bhagavad-gita as well.
It's true.
Okay.
Continue.
I'll read a little bit more of that. He also saw his different plenary portions in part. Okay, just read that. But at last, he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls.
You did skip a sentence. He also saw his different plenary portions and parts of the plenary portions, namely his different incarnations also. And he specifically observed the unwanted miseries of the conditioned souls who were bewildered by the external energy.
He observed the unwanted miseries. Yeah, you can do that too. It's called turning on the news. You get to witness all the unwanted miseries of conditioned life. And at last, he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls, namely the process of devotional service. It is great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, glory, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Revival of the dormant affection of a love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. Wow, that's a pretty big statement. It doesn't depend on hearing and chanting.
He said it begins with it in the previous sentence, right? It is a great transcendental science, the science of Bhakti-yoga, and it begins with the process of hearing and chanting. That's called Shravanam and Kirtanam. These are the fundamental practices in Bhakti-yoga.
Continue.
But then he goes on and says, but actually it's not dependent on that, because ultimately that state of consciousness of pure bhakti, or that revival, is ultimately, it's not that we can just do it by our hearing and chanting, but ultimately Krishna grants it. It's ultimately mercy is involved. So
the Lord is fully satisfied, he says, with the sincere efforts of the devotee. He may endow them with loving transcendental service or bhakti.
So it's a combination that our effort, when recognized, then Krishna may be inclined to grant that state of consciousness of pure transcendental love. So in one sense, it's a combination of our endeavor, but it's ultimately dependent on God's grace. You know about in the Sri Sampradaya, this very old lineage, especially in Tamil Nadu and in South India, that they have the monkeys and the cats. Do you know about that, Raghu?
No.
You don't know about the monkeys and the cats?
No.
So it's a lineage, a beautiful bhakti lineage.
Of monkeys and cats. This is our
Yes,
guru.
It is.
We call him a Mittens Maharaj.
Mittens. And over here we have a monkey.
This is Jojo Prabhu.
Jojo. That's what you would name your monkey. But so this is it's a beautiful ancient lineage of bhakti yoga, especially practiced in South India. And even within that lineage, it kind of breaks into two different branches. One of the branches is called the monkeys. One of the branches is called the cats. I think the cats are especially centered in Sri Rangam, a very beautiful holy place. And I think the monkeys are especially situated in Kanchipuram, also in Tamil Nadu. So this is the idea. Amongst bhakti yogis, some may emphasize more the need for our own endeavor in the practice of bhakti and to achieving the goal of bhakti.
Wait a second. This whole thing has nothing to do with monkeys or cats, does it?
I'm getting there.
These are just analogies.
It's totally about monkeys and cats. Just hold on. Be patient, Raghu. Patience. So some emphasize more that to achieve the goal of bhakti, they emphasize more the need of one's own endeavor. And the other emphasizes more the need of grace. So here's the question, Raghu.
Okay.
The cats and the monkeys, which ones are emphasizing grace and which ones are emphasizing endeavor?
Monkeys endeavor. Cats, I have no idea.
No, you're right. You got it. I mean, you had a 50-50 chance. Because when we see, like some of us all just came back from Vrindavan where there's lots of monkeys running around, right? Most people don't live in places where there's tons of, at least most of our listeners probably don't live in places. You go to Vrindavan, the monkeys are just everywhere. There's tons of monkeys running around. Now, when a monkey carries its, how does a monkey carry its child? Or let's say well, let's put it this way. The monkey doesn't carry its child. The child has to hang on to the monkey, right? Like the monkey kind of moves on all fours and the baby monkey's underneath the monkey, hanging on with its own arms and legs underneath the mother monkey. Right? Yes?
Yes.
Whereas the cat, it's no endeavor at all on the part of the kitten. The mother picks up that kitten with its own mouth, by the scruff of the neck.
I get this.
So there's no endeavor on the part of the kitten, but the baby monkey, it's its own endeavor to hang on. And so the Sri Vaishnavas of Sri Rangam, of that branch of their lineage, I hope I'm getting it correct, that they emphasize more they're called the cats because they emphasize grace, whereas the ones in Kanchipuram emphasize more the endeavor. Now here, what Srila Prabhupada just kind of clarified is it involves both, that we endeavor, And if Krishna is pleased with the sincerity of our endeavor, not even the expertise of our endeavor, but the sincerity of the endeavor, then he may grant his grace and grant bhakti, pure devotional service, pure love.
I like it.
All right.
I really
Cats
thought
and
they
the
were going to
monkeys.
bring a monkey or a cat into the temple and do something with them, dress them up, honor them.
Honor the monkeys.
It never went there, but
In your mind, it did though. So
yeah, I had the whole elaborate ceremony going on. Bring in the cat.
not the cat, bring in the monkey. The big
In
debate
this
goes
temple,
on.
it's only the monkey. Okay,
All right.
continuing on. Come on, more of that, please. Oh, for me.
Let's just finish this up because there's just a couple more sentences. One
Okay.
more sentences.
Why don't you read it?
But even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, the endeavor, even if you haven't been yet granted the grace, like the kitten, but even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous and unwanted miseries of material existence. So in other words, the hearing and chanting, even on its own, it'll grant you relief from the sufferings of this world. And then Krishna at any moment may grant you pure transcendental love, the complete fulfillment of yoga. Such mitigation of material affection does not wait for the development of transcendental knowledge. It doesn't wait for jnana or renunciation. Rather, knowledge / renunciation is dependent on devotional service for the ultimate realization of the supreme truth. It's just that here in Bhagavatam, Bhakti is going to be presented in this finally conclusive book. Bhakti is always going to be presented as that which reveals and grants everything.
Okay.
All
Text
right.
7. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving bhakti or loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguishing the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So these are everything that the jiva, the spirit, suffers with in this material world. Lamentation, the good old days. Remember when we did this? We suffer from lamentation, illusion, making foolish choices, and fearfulness. The virus, we're going to all die. It's a pandemic.
The virus. Yeah, a lot of times, like within spiritual or new age, there's a lot of talk about living in the moment, which is a good thing.
Yes.
But what does that mean, really? It means that we give up lamentation. Oh my God, why did this happen in the past? Or even, and fearfulness, which has a lot to do with what's going to happen in the future. Or hankering, which has a lot to do with what's going to happen in the future.
Worrying about the future is like the biggest cause of distress.
Yeah.
Obsessed with the future,
And what to speak of obsession with the past?
Obsession with the past.
A lot of people are stuck there.
Stuck there, trying to move forward, looking in that rear view mirror.
Bitterness, right?
Bitterness, lamentation, or the good old days. I think that happens too. Remember us in high school.
Yeah, in the past, there's either like a lamentation or like a sentimental, even that sentimental is like kind of a lamentation, like, oh, if only we could be back there again.
I know.
And the hankering, and then there's hankering and fearfulness. Like fearfulness would seem like the negative one, but even the hankering is kind of like, why don't I have what I want? In one sense, whereas the yogi, they can actually live in the moment. It's when you release when you feel contentment, spiritual contentment, you can actually be in the moment because you're not concerned with the past or the future because you're free. Isn't that right? You're content.
And the solution is just this: simply by giving oral reception. That's what we're doing. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature. Feeling. I'm just going to read that again because it's beautiful. The feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. Let me read a little dip in the purport. There are various senses of which the ear is the most effective. This sense works even when a person is deep asleep. One can protect himself from the hands of an enemy while awake, but while asleep, one is protected by the ear only. The importance of hearing is mentioned here in this connection. With attaining the highest perfection of life, namely getting free from the three material pangs, everyone is full of lamentation at every moment. They are after the mirage of illusory things, and they are always afraid of his supposed enemy. These are the primary symptoms of the material disease, and it's definitely suggested herein that simply by hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one gets attachment for the personality of Godhead. And as soon as this is affected, the symptoms of material disease disappear. Srila Vyasadeva saw all perfect personality of Godhead, and in this statement, the all perfect personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is clearly confirmed. Okay, Kaustubha,
Yeah.
what do you do if you can't hear? If you're born deaf, if you lose your hearing?
Yeah, hearing can come through the eyes too. You can read, like that's in one sense. It's conveying the message.
He's quick, isn't he? He's very quick.
What if you're deaf and blind? It gets harder. It definitely gets hard.
It gets harder.
Yeah, but somehow,
Braille?
who was that woman who was working with the deaf and the blind?
What's her name?
Helen Keller.
Helen Keller. So even she was able to communicate, so
She was
some
deaf,
level,
blind, and couldn't speak.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you could do anything.
I also think a lot about, I may have spoken about this on the show months ago or something like that, but I was reading an article, I think it was in the New York Times, about autism and how when we see a person that's got, maybe some severe form of autism, that it appears like they just can't understand anything because they can't communicate. They're like their ability to speak and to express themselves is limited by their disease, by their condition. But actually, they're in there kind of like understanding much more than we know that they understand. It's just that it's kind of like if I was trying to communicate to you through a phone that had a bad connection, it sounds like I'm all messed up, but I'm not messed up. It's just like what I'm trying to communicate through is all messed up.
Right. Right.
And so that they're kind of sometimes like
sometimes
I'm sorry?
Sometimes they have an exacerbated other sense. They have some
another thing.
other deep intelligence, but it doesn't come out so practically.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing where I saw this other video of this person with a certain type of autism where they put him in a helicopter and they fly him over Manhattan. Did I tell you this before?
No, but
I'm
wikiing something as you speak. Keep going.
But just by flying over Manhattan once, I don't know how many buildings there are. The person then draws like a massive mural with like every building like just right.
Yeah.
Now we can't do that with like one block, right?
Yeah.
We walk down one block.
Check out this.
Well, hold it. Let me finish this point, Raghu.
Can I cut you off?
Let me finish this point. And this is relevant, okay? Because what that's saying is that we all probably have this potential to just like see all of Manhattan and memorize the whole thing. So when we hear in Bhagavatam that there's these Shrutidaras, right? These people that before Vyasadeva compiled the Vedic literature, people just memorized the whole thing. It sounds absurd. But we can even see nowadays that there's certain people that like their autism, where it limits them on one level, it opens up other doors of potential that are there. So that we do have the potential for that kind of memory, but we're just not tapped into it.
Yeah, or a lot of our energy or intelligence is bleeded out on such mundane things that like a deep type of intelligence might be gone. Interesting side note, savant syndrome is a condition in which someone with significant mental disabilities demonstrates certain abilities far in excess of average. The skills at which savants excel are generally related to memory. This may include rapid calculation, artistic ability, map making, or musical ability. Usually just one special skill is present.
That's called savant syndrome?
Savant syndrome.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It shows a possibility too. And it shows how judging people by externals, you can fall short on a lot. And it also shows how we just are so embodied that we can't understand any other type of body that's not like us. And we project our limitations on that body.
Like animals as well, right? Like an animal,
animals.
there's a soul just like us in there, but it's working through different equipment.
Sure.
A person with autism is a soul just like us, but they're working through different equipment. We think they can't understand, but sometimes people think like animals. I mean, maybe people are saying this less now, but they don't have feelings or emotion. Come on. It's like, it's obvious that they do.
Less now. I think that was more 90s.
Yeah. Before that, right?
But it's true. And that's why the whole principle of one of the founding pillars of this whole thing is that we give dignity to all living beings. And this principle of ahimsa. We can't say we love God and we want to start killing everything around us to consume it, because everything is actually a spiritual being. So just living in this world is murderous, as we said early. So we try to minimize the pain we cause to others. All living beings, we try to minimize it.
That's
right. Don't like to kill a fly. Don't like to kill a spider.
That recognizing the sacredness of all life is essential for the practice of bhakti, right? You started a record. Was it you that was it your record company? You named it Equal Vision? Is that how it started?
I named it Equal Vision, yeah.
Equal Vision Records. So that's alluding to a verse in the Bhagavad-gita. What is it, 5:18? Vidyavanaya sampane, brahmane gavi hasini, shunichaiva svapakecha.
Pandita samadarshana.
Yeah, that the sage or the learned person sees with samadarshana, equal vision, the soul in all different varieties of bodies, whether they be animal or human. That's truth, right? That's actually seeing things as they are.
It's real equality. It's real unity. It's real. We have to unite past the human body.
Yeah, the idea that, and what's a thought that's important to me that I consider a lot is that the social justice that we're looking for in this world, the true social justice, to truly achieve it, it actually requires a spiritual vision, right? It requires a spiritual depth.
Because on the external platform, you'll never have equality, and you can't fake it. You can't fake. Like, Tom's smarter than me. The guy builds robots. I'm not going to fake like I'm smarter than Mara's a better cook than me, So, and I don't want to be Mara, and I don't want to be Tom. I'm okay with being me. I'm a unique being. And to homogenize us is artificial. That being said, we have equality on a more subtle platform. And that subtle platform is not mental, because the minds are different.
Right.
It's not buddhi. It's not the intelligence. The intelligence is different. And it's not in ego. The egos are all different. So it's not the gross body. That's obviously smarter than me, stronger than me, taller than me, more handsome than me. It's not, equality is not on that level. Don't try to find it there. And it's not on a mental level or a emotional. It's on a spiritual level. You have to go more subtle. And there you'll find it even beyond the human species. You'll see it in the animal species. There's equality and dignity must be had in the animal species. And we see that in the forests. We don't want to cut down rainforests. Why? Because they're beings. And they have a function in society. In the same way the key on the computer has a function on the computer. And we're all in this, and we're all centered around the divine. And real yoga, it means to wake up this identity of, I'm not the center, I'm part of something bigger. And therefore, I'm going to tread lightly in this world. I'm doing my time here for a short time. I'm connecting, and then I'm leaving. And I'm loving, and I'm leaving.
Nice. We're getting all kind of interesting comments here. Stephanie Saleli.
What does she say?
She mentions that many nonverbal people with autism can write beautifully or communicate through a computer, right? You give them the right equipment. Computer is basically just a mind, right? Connected to senses. And so if you get that right equipment, then you can get underneath. And then Laura Zales has said, the book Mama's Last Hug talks about animals' ability to express emotion. Rats, for example, were seen as emotionless, yet it's been proven that they love to be tickled. Have you ever tickled a rat, Raghu?
Once or twice.
And when tickled, they let off a sound like a laugh that our human ear cannot hear. Very interesting. Yeah. But it's, you know, and even that's kind of like cute and all of that. But like this equal vision, this spiritual vision, it develops through yoga, and it's almost a prerequisite to go deeper into yoga. Because without that equal vision, we tend to hold different types of opinions or thoughts that fill our mind about different people or different species or whatever it may be, that kind of keep our mind engaged and our spirit engaged in such a way that we're not able to go deep within, right? We always want to change something external. What inspired you to choose that particular verse to name your record company after?
Because, you know, in the punk music scene, we talk about unity a lot, and not being prejudiced or racist. So the idea of equal vision, unity, what I said, unity comes on a much more subtle level.
Okay, so is that very idea that we're talking about?
Very idea, actually.
All right.
It's the lens we're asked to see with. Okay, let me read one more verse. The great sage Vyasadeva, this is text 8, the great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Sri Sukadeva Goswami, who is already engaged in self-realization. Okay, Kaustubha, why is the Bhagavatam talking about the Bhagavatam as if the Bhagavatam is not written?
You know, okay, to answer that question in Broadway, you've said many times on this show that we're doing our monologue or whatever before we're getting to the Bhagavatam. You're saying, actually, this is Bhagavatam. Right. Now, I read a very interesting quote the other day where Srila Prabhupada was being interviewed, and a woman was asking him about Joan of Arc, and something about, well, is she in the Bhagavatam or something like that? Let me go research this and find it again. And in the end, what Prabhupada said is, I think they described Joan of Arc to him, you know, that she was just, you know, devoted to God and had these visions. And he said, well, then Joan of Arc is Bhagavatam, you know, because Bhagavatam, it means like it's referring to like the pastimes and the qualities of God. And so wherever we see that, or wherever the conversation is on that, you could say the conversation is Bhagavatam. Right. Now, Bhagavatam, in one sense, is the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and the king who was about to die, Maharaj Pariksit. But that conversation, that doesn't actually begin until the second canto. But all of this Bhagavatam building up to it it's also Bhagavatam in quality, right? Because it's all connected to the glories of Bhagavan. And the first canto is kind of, in many ways, setting us up. It's introducing us to many of the important concepts that we need to grasp, as well as the important characters who will play out, including the king, Pariksit, Sukadeva Goswami, the speaker, Vidura, we're going to hear about, who becomes, you know, one of the main questioners in the third and fourth cantos. We're going to hear about all these characters in the first canto. And then when the second canto begins, we hear the conversation that Suta is referring to as the Bhagavatam, the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit. I know for people that are brand new to this, all these names and stuff is going to be a little hard to grasp, but if you just stick with it, it's going to click, you know.
It's going to click.
And we should mention that, you know, again, especially for new people that are coming around, this Bhagavatam is many volumes. You know, to buy it usually costs like about $250, $275 or something like that. But it is available. If you Google Vedabase, you'll find a collection of the works of Srila Prabhupada, the Bhagavatam being among them. It's all for free. It's all right up there. And you can follow along.
Yeah, I would recommend doing that first before investing in one. We're probably the first devotees of Krishna who said, don't buy a book.
I didn't say you did. I say go out and buy it.
All right. I meant buy the book. Anyway, I was searching Joan of Arc, but found nothing. I don't know anything about Joan of Arc. What's her story? No one.
Joan of Arc.
Mara, what did you learn in that private school? You know what Joan of Arc is?
Joan of Arc was a young lady in France who fought, against oppression, but she had these visions of Christ.
Oh, really?
One of my favorite paintings in the Metropolitan Museum is a painting of Joan of Arc having her visions. It's like really beautiful painting, really kind of spiritual painting.
That is, I think, in Wikipedia, that picture. She's remained a popular figure in literature, painting, sculpture, and other cultural works since the time of her death. Okay, that's all I got. All right, I think that wraps up our show for today, Kaustubha.
All right.
Oh no!
The next, do you know the verse tomorrow is like just this huge mass? The next verse is like big one.
The big one's tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's the next verse. Next two verses, the second to next verse.
Good.
The Atmarama verse.
It's a Bhagavatam cliffhanger. If you joined us and if you're new to the show, welcome. We welcome you aboard on this fun little adventure we're on, this spiritual adventure. We do this every morning. And I'm traveling to Tucson this weekend and to New York City. Actually, well, I'll be here tomorrow, but then New York City. I think Kaustubha, we're going to do maybe we can do tomorrow to Friday together or something.
But it never works well together because of the microphone thing, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll go in your bathroom and do it.
Okay. Hey, and if you want to go deeper into these studies, check out Wisdom of the Sages on Patreon.
Yeah, we're setting up our Patreon community now. I'm excited for it. And
Friday night, I'll do a class on the 13th chapter of the Gita for the Patreon subscribers.
And, I had another. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. We've got Patreon ideas. Me and Kaustubha are scheming. Anybody's got any questions or comments, you can write to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Thanks to everybody joining us through Apple Podcasts, etc. And we'll see you soon. Namaste. And everybody on Zoom. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. We're going to wake up all the kids. Look, we got a whole dance party. Thanks for everybody joining us a little later. That I didn't say hi to. Alexia, good to see you.
Hair mustache is
AJ
dancing.
Sullivan. Everyone's dancing here. Alexia's somewhere exotic, I can tell. She's with a bunch of people jumping around.
Indigo's jumping around.
Oh, Indigo, yes. Dr. Louie's jumping around. Don Cayley was jumping around. Clifford Dean. Kelly Skinner, good morning. Lauren Carmen, good morning. Hair mustache, good morning. Kristen Radgeter, good morning. Dana B. Zoe, good to see you. Papa Tony, Sarka, Akiko G, Akiko-san, iPhone Prabhu. NASA, thanks for taking us on this morning walk with you today. Appreciate it.
Hey, Raghu,
AJ Sullivan.
you'll come to Thursday Night Kirtan at the Bhakti Center, right?
Yeah, I'm coming this Thursday.
We should do a big Zoom.
Thursday.
We should
this
all
Thursday and next Thursday.
So we should all hang out. We have a Wisdom of the Sages thing Thursday Night Kirtan. You know what?
Yeah, Thursday
night Kirtan is going to be all the Brooklyn devotees coming over to do Kirtan. It's going to be off the charts.
Oh, nice. All right, very excited.
Thursday night, Bhakti Center. Come.
Haribol.